Triumph 350 500 unit gearbox. This gearbox has come out of the Trifield trials bike that I'm currently working on. I rode the bike the other day, video recorded it, and although it went reasonably well, I didn't like the feel of the gearbox, and there was a bit of a harshness to it, especially in third gear, and it also felt like it was trying to jump out of gear a couple of times when it was in third. So I discussed it all with the owner, and we decided it would be best to take a look. So I've done that, and I found out that, as far as I can see, both the shafts and all the gears and everything appear to be in pretty good shape. But a couple of things sort of caught my attention. There was a lot of end float. Well, there it is, in the kickstart shaft, which I didn't like, and I'll move the camera in a minute to show in greater detail what goes on between these two gears. But basically, you've got the engagement pins sticking out of this gear, which is held by the selector fork, and obviously when called upon, that gear drops into the cam plate's actually hiding it, but the gears mesh together to give first gear. All other gears, that gear and that gear, are out of mesh, they're clear of each other. But with the end float that I had on the kickstart shaft, which also followed through to the lay shaft, it was allowing this gear to get close enough to this gear that the engagement pegs were actually clattering on their corresponding holes in this gear and causing the rattle, I believe. So to back up that theory, there's a distance piece missing on the kickstart shaft, which should be fitted before this spring retainer goes on. I've looked at the parts lists for various not various models, but various years of the 350 and 500 twins. There's definitely a part missing from there. I'm going to pick the camera up now, I hope. There's a thing called a distance piece. I'll just try and get some light on it, shall I? Try not to swamp us with light. There's a distance piece that should go on the kickstart shaft before that, and that is missing, so that would probably contribute to perhaps holding the kickstart shaft steady laterally, which when moved, obviously that gear goes with it. And when it's moved inwards, like I say, those engagement dogs or pins on this gear get close enough to the recesses in the gear closest to the kickstart to allow this one to sort of clatter against the other gear. It's not fully engaging with it, thankfully, but it does make a clatter that you can actually feel as you're riding the bike. You can feel it through the handlebars and the footrests, as well as hear the noise. Now, also, there's evidence here, again, whether the camera will pick it up and you'll be able to see, there's a little sort of line on the end of the main shaft, the lay shaft, sorry. In fact, probably more visible without the torch shining on it, but there is a little sort of about a millimetre's worth. There's a slight mark, I can see it there on the end of the lay shaft, where, although no sort of thrust washer or shim or anything is listed for this year of machine that's got the phosphor bronze lay shaft bush, later machines with a different part number for their lay shafts had a needle roller bearing there, and they did indeed have a thrust washer. So I'm sort of hedging my bets that perhaps there's a mismatch of parts here. Maybe we've got the needle roller bearing type lay shaft in a phosphor bronze bush, and there's a bit of an overhang. So I'm going to look into the possibility of shimming it. I can actually feel it with my fingernail. Like I say, I don't think the camera is going to pick that up too well, but there's about the same sort of shaft length, if you like, as the end float that I've been experiencing. What my idea is, or one of them, is to possibly add a shim here to stop the lay shaft moving laterally, because when it does, as you can see, it allows this gear to move with it, or move freely, and perhaps clatter against this one. The selector fork holds this one in a constant position. No matter what you do with the lay shaft, that sliding gear is controlled by the selector fork, so that's not going to move with the lay shaft and the other gears. So I reckon that if I can shim this lay shaft over that way and held steady over that way, it's going to keep the back of this gear away from the engagement pins on this sliding gear, and hopefully cure the knocking and clattering noise that we've been getting, which I initially thought was caused by the links of the chain, the drive chain, hitting something, but I'm pretty sure that we're looking at the culprits there. I'll just try and get some light in there. Maybe might make things a little more visible. We can see the sort of engagement pins sticking out of the sliding gear and the recesses that they engage into in the other gear, and also there appears to be some light marking or polishing, which would back up my theory that the ends of those engagement pins have been tapping against the face of this gear. And I'm pretty confident that if I get that shimmed up accordingly and satisfactorily, that should sort that problem out, and the gearbox should work fine and sound a lot smoother, and possibly it may even help with what I think was a couple of attempts by the gearbox to jump out of third gear. But there's no undue signs of undue wear on any of the engagement dogs or faces or anything. Everything else appears to have been behaving itself. No chipped gears or missing teeth. Everything spins quite freely, so I'm going to concentrate on getting this shimmed up, and hopefully I'll have to also get the missing distance piece from this side that, as I say, goes on before this does, and I'm pretty confident that'll sort it out. And like I say, in top gear and third gear they're not engaged, but it is possible for one to touch the other when the end float, or the amount of end float that it had, is permitted to sort of let the gear move over. Then it will actually touch the other one. So I think I've nailed the culprit, and watch this space, and hopefully I'll be able to provide an update fairly soon, and fingers crossed have a nicely working gearbox once more.